Hi, my name is Diane Mayo. I am a certified early childhood educator and I have been teaching pre-K for the past 5 years. I currently teach at an elementary school in New York City that has a large native Spanish speaking population. This year, my class contains 13 native Spanish speakers and 4 native English speakers. To learn how to better teach non-English speakers, I'm currently enrolled in a TESOL program. Differentiation is instruction that accounts for differences of individual learners. According to Jensen 2020, differentiation involves adapting to individual differences in terms of content, rate of learning, preference, and environment. Pereira 2021 reminds us that students come from diverse cultural, racial, and/or ethnic backgrounds, and they also differ in development, prior knowledge, ability, learning needs, and interests. Students in any given classroom are mixed together with all these differences, and teachers must adapt their instruction to help each student learn effectively. Differentiation is rooted in the science of brain-based learning. Jensen and McConchie 2020 reveals that scientists who study tens of thousands of brain scans will tell you that most of the brains are atypical or have issues or might not be accepted into a typical research study looking for healthy brains. This means that in my professional setting as a pre-K teacher, I must assume that there is no such thing as normal brain or normal student. Every student has their own interests, likes, dislikes, experiences, prior knowledge, developed skills, and more. As I get to know each student, I can tailor my instruction to leverage their strengths and develop their other skills. One way to bring differentiated brain-based learning to the pre-K classroom is to give students choices. Jensen and McConchie 2020 tell us that students are motivated by choice and their perception of autonomy is indeed a strong motivator. In a pre-K classroom, these choices start with learning centers. These are self-directed stations placed throughout the classroom that each have a different focus. The centers include blocks, art, music, writing, reading, science, imaginative play, and more. Since students choose which centers they want to go to, their individual preferences get developed. Another way to bring differentiated brain-based learning to the pre-K classroom is to allow time for individual conferencing. As all of the other students are engaged in learning centers, the teacher can pull one student aside to work on individual skills. As the teacher sits with each student, the nature of the work will vary significantly. Some students will need help forming letters, while other students need help counting. This is true differentiation as it specifically targets the needs of each student. Engagement is the level of interest, focus, excitement, and motivation students have in learning new content. It can be witnessed in the body language or activity of the students. Engaged students will often show excitement and genuine interest, while disengaged students will often appear bored and distracted. Engagement is strongly influenced by the brain-based factors of motivation and relevance. Jensen and McConchie 2020 point out that the brain naturally pays attention to things that are of greater relevance. Furthermore, these motivations are strongly connected to 3 important neurotransmitters: dopamine, norepinephrine, and cortisol. In my professional setting as a pre-K teacher, engagement is critical to my students' ability to learn. If my students show little interest, not much learning will take place. I can start this process by making students feel like they belong. Jensen and McConchie share that students who have a sense of belonging to a school or classroom community are more likely to engage in positive academic behaviors that produce higher levels of engagement and performance. One way to increase engagement through brain-based learning is to make the learning more relevant to students. Jensen and McConchy 2020 point out that when a learner recognizes the behavioral relevance of new content or a new skill, the chances of its being learned, remembered, and internalized increases. In the pre-K classroom, I can achieve this by asking students to share stories about a topic being taught. These stories can help students make sense of the content by giving it a context. Another way to increase engagement through brain-based learning is by making sure my learning activities are developmentally appropriate. Alford 2015 explains that students taught by teachers who use more developmentally appropriate practices were more likely to be on task and less likely to be off task. In pre-K, for example, this means selecting books that reflect the typical reading range of 3 to 5-year-old students. It also means teaching math through the counting of physical objects rather than worksheets, which require more abstract thinking. In summary, differentiation and engagement are both brain-based elements that are critical to student success. As a teacher, implementing appropriate strategies that relate to these elements will help my students learn and thrive in school. Thank you for listening.